That's right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started. Let's get this whole show underway. Round one of this show. Talking about the Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin De Los Santos for the vacant WBC lightweight title, at 135 pounds. To provide some backdrop to this whole affair, Shakur Stevenson, one of the biggest rising stars in all of boxing that we've covered multiple times on this show, one of the better technical boxers in all of the sport, distance control incredible, 20-0, 10 KOs, looking to become a champion lightweight division versus Edwin De Los Santos, 16-1, 14 KOs, 88% power, or 88%, win percentage by knockout. Well, let's break it down, shall we? What does Santos bring to the table? What does Edwin De Los Santos bring to the table when it comes to Shakur Stevenson? Well, like I said before, he is incredibly fast. He's incredibly quick. He is somebody who is explosive on top of, I didn't say that before, on top of the power that I just lauded over. He's got legitimate speed. He is a very explosive boxer, not just in terms of punching. I'm talking about just movement as a whole. He's incredibly athletic. This is the man who can dart in and out of the ring. More likely wants to dart in rather than darting in and out. He's more of a jump in type of fighter. He will go way back and then close the gap in a heartbeat right before at the drop of a hat in the form of a hiccup. And then what do you know? Bang, he'll hit you with a shot in whichever hand he wants to go, but favors the power left hand. That's right, that left hand that he has in his arsenal is deadly, is lethal, is something that is to be legitimately concerned about if you're Shakur Stevenson, because it can come from many different angles, it can come from many different vantage points, and it can be used both as a means to check you and a means to take you out in a heartbeat. It is a very dangerous weapon in the hands of Santos. And top of the fact that I talked about the athleticism, his athleticism allows for him to really be able to make up for any mistakes that he has in the ring. By mistakes, I mean, let's say he jumps in too far and he gets caught or he gets a little bit off balance. He's athletic enough physically to be able to still recover and still with his fast twitch abilities. He's able to still rectify the mistake, get out of dodge, and be safe and continue his onslaught coming forward, or rather continue his ability to be safe and then come back in for another darting, very surprising attack. With his athletic ability, he makes him hard to track, makes him hard to guard, has very underrated footwork, and I know we use the term underrated often, but his ability to legitimately use footwork in line with his athletic ability makes him somebody that can be hard to track when he does want to stay on the outside and when he does want to stay defensive. He's got a legitimate slickness to him that he can implement. So there's a lot of different things that make him a very tough opponent for Shakur Stevenson. He might be one of the most dangerous opponents that we've seen Shakur go up against in terms of, and this is where the distinction comes in with De Los Santos, raw talent. Raw talent, he is one of the most dangerous people that we've seen Shakur go up against. Yes, we know he faced Oscar Valdez. I get that. Yes, I know he won a title before. Again, beat Oscar Valdez. I can understand that completely. And Oscar Valdez is a very recognized champion, somebody who's willing to fight anybody, very tough, very strong, willing to go for broke. We know what Oscar Valdez is, but we also understand when looking at Oscar Valdez versus looking at Shakur versus looking at Edwin De Los Santos, they're different fighters. They're different fighters. And you're looking at a man who, in De Los Santos, who, let's be perfectly honest, is more explosive, is more dangerous in terms of how his game plan can be implemented against Shakur Stevenson, rather than what we saw against Oscar Valdez when it came to Shakur Stevenson. Because Oscar Valdez, again, phenomenal champion, phenomenal fighter. But like we saw against Shakur and like we saw against Emmanuel Navarrete, he is, to an extent, a one-trick pony. That's not bad. That's just what he is. Again, Wilder, one trick, but it works. One trick for Oscar Valdez, it's been working for him. Coming forward, the true Mexican type style of boxer that he is worked phenomenally. We get it. I understand. We've covered him. counter puncher, willing to throw hooks, will be willing to trade, can turn it into a brawl, will attack the body and the head. If he gets you in the corner, he can be incredibly dangerous and relentless. We understand that. But it's still how he goes about doing it is a one-faceted style, though it's a good one for him. When it comes to Edwin De Los Santos, even if his style is track one-minded, per se, in terms of what he likes to do, which is uses explosiveness to close the distance and then land combinations on the inside, the way that he can make that one trick work is a lot more diverse than the way that we saw Oscar Valdez do it. That's what could give Stevenson a lot of trouble. His jab also is very, very, very good. One of the biggest weapons in closing the distance is shooting out that very quick jab coupled with his explosiveness in closing the gap from way far out. But how we can win this fight specifically is the fact that that ability to close the distance at such a fast pace and such an instantaneous rate is something that can give Shakur major trouble in trying to differentiate where the sweet spot in distance control is for Shakur. Because again, we know who Shakur is. We've covered Shakur before. One of the best controllers of the ring and one of this generation and one of the best distance managers that we've seen in boxing of this generation. Phenomenal. He's great at it. His whole thing about boxing is I don't need to move 10 feet back or 10 feet to the side to make sure I got my range right. I can stand right in front of you, take half a step back, and be completely out of where you can hit me, yet be in range to do whatever I want it is to you. Great, phenomenal speed, footwork, body control, and distance management and depth perception that he's got that is uncanny out of everybody in boxing. We understand it. That still doesn't mean, with all of that being said, that he can't be given trouble by Edwin with Edwin's ability to be incredibly fast at closing the distance and then darting back out. That speed can give Shakur some trouble. That speed can give Shakur some serious problems engaging where and when to throw the shots necessary to catch Edwin like he wants to and make it so that he's always in control. It's a legitimate thing because you're dealing with, again, raw talent in terms of Edwin De Los Santos. He's got the tools physically to give him a lot of trouble and potentially win this fight. And because he's raw, he's not as refined. He's not as buffed out as we see with Shakur Stevenson, who's, again, a mastermind of a boxer. But with that rawness comes unpredictability. Couple that unpredictability with great speed, both in the feet and in the hands, breeds an environment to make Shakur really have to work to get the distance right in order for him to take control of the fight, like we've seen him do multiple times against multiple opponents all throughout his career. And with that unpredictability can come a legitimate weakness that we could see get exposed, which is the body of Shakur Stevenson. Whether you want to admit it or not. I'm not saying he's weak to the body, but we have seen him get hurt before. Again, Oscar Valdez caught him to the body. In fact, Sean Porter pointed it out on his podcast when they were covering the fight as well. Shakur got hurt to the body by Oscar Valdez. It is the truth. He hit it incredibly well. Absolutely he did. Again, carried himself like a champion. Went on to win the fight. Dominated for the most part. Absolutely. That doesn't change the fact that we saw something that could potentially give him trouble. With all the boxing ability, there is a focal point that can be hit to the body that can potentially shift the trajectory of what can happen in this fight. Now, you couple that with being able to close the distance and make it so that Shakur whiffs on a counter, and you then have an opening to land a body shot with the power that we see Edwin De Los Santos have legitimately at his disposal, it could spell some real trouble if things go south for Shakur Stevenson. So it's not out the question that we could either see Shakur get hurt and then get put in trouble, or we could see the distance management of Shakur not happen up until late in the fight. And by that time, potentially, with the raw unpredictability of Edwin De Los Santos, it could be too little too late, potentially. And it'll be forced that Shakur is going to have to score a knockdown and or knockout to potentially win the fight. If it went that way, that's how I would see Edwin De Los Santos winning. Because he's not going to be able to outbox him. He's just not going to be able to. He's not going to be able to outbox him. We understand that. We know that. We know this. Again, great boxer in his own respect. But he's not going to be able to outbox him. Again, raw versus refined. He's not going to be able to outbox him. But if he can turn this into a mismanagement control on Shakur's part, with him being raw and unpolished, having the ability to make his distance management very hard to mitigate, could take away one of Shakur Stevenson's greatest weapons, which then would take away the absolute control that we see from Shakur Stevenson, which then would allow Edwin to be able to have a real shot at pulling out an upset victory, becoming a champion, and potentially putting himself in line for the upper echelon of the division in all of boxing with the lightweight division at 135 pounds. We can legitimately see that. It's not out of the question. So that's how we could see Edwin De Los Santos actively win this fight. But that doesn't mean that I haven't won this fight. Who I have won this fight is Shakur Stevenson. And the reason why I got Shakur Stevenson winning this fight is due to the fact that I believe we're going to see Shakur Stevenson, like we've seen him do before, get the distance, gauge the distance, lock in the distance, and never let control of the fight go from his grasp for the rest of the night. For the rest of the night. Jab him as he's coming in, counter him with shots consistently, allow for Edwin to get frustrated and overcommit as he's getting outboxed, and then, boom, catch him with the hook, knock him down. And then from there, close the show. That's what I see happening. Because Shakur Stevenson is too refined of a boxer. At this point in his career, we're seeing a different type of Shakur. Now we're seeing a Shakur that doesn't only need to rely on boxing acumen to get the job done. Now we're seeing a Shakur that can legitimately pop. And once you unravel the power inside you as a boxer, as you mature, or if you already have it, it changes the way that you can approach a fight. It changes the way that you can approach the sweet science of boxing. Changes the way that you can have, or changes the openings and avenues that you have in your ability to win a fight, which then earns you confidence, which then makes it easier for you to take control of a fight when you hit your stride. And that's exactly what Shakur Stevenson is going to do. Going to be able to get the distance control. Going to be able to judge and mitigate De Los Santos to do what he wants to do. Going to get him frustrated, going to catch him, and is going to knock him out. Probably knock him down multiple times, and then knock him out later on in the fight. That's what's going to happen. Get Edwin De Los Santos not to be able to jump in and out anymore, not be able to use his athleticism to his peak, because now that athleticism is working against him. Because he's not jumping into opportunities to punch. He's jumping into opportunities to get punched. And then from there, it'll just be only a matter of time until Shakur inevitably overwhelms Edwin De Los Santos. And then we get a new WBC champion at lightweight in Shakur Stevenson, continuing the rise of a great, prominent boxer in his young career. And the biggest reason why all of that's going to work, again, I said that Edwin De Los Santos was raw. That rawness leads, again, to unpredictability, but at the same time, patterns that come up in his game that he hasn't learned to get out of. And it's mainly his guard. And his guard acts as a tell. That tell being when he's going to be aggressive and when he's going to be defensive. When he stands in a more defensive, like, not going to call it a Philly shell, but with his power hand up to his chin and lead hand down by his side, he's defensive. He's throwing straights. He's throwing jabs. He's not necessarily looking to lunge inside. Instead, he's looking to be more manage the space, manage the distance. get out, reset, and then get to a spot where it's comfortable with inside the ring. Make you miss. Looking to legitimately be a defensive fighter. But when he's in a high guard up by his face, that's when he's going to get aggressive. That's when he gets to the point where he's throwing power shots. He's setting traps. He's looking to throw a hook. He's looking to land that lead left hand. Or in his case, the power left hand. Looking to land power shots. Looking to close the distance and do damage. That's when he wants to do it. Those two tells, when he fights in two distinct styles, when he switches between those two types of guards, it's something that Shakur is going to pick up on. It's something that Shakur is going to actively take advantage of. And he's going to do away with. Which is why we can see this fight end very early. Because by round 2, or rather by round 1, we can see Shakur Stevenson pick up on that tell that he has on when he's going to be aggressive and when he's going to be defensive, and then just operate from there. Again, rawness leads to as much unpredictability as it does to predictability. When you figure out what leads to the mindset that you have in terms of your game plan, then you're easy to figure out. Because now your rawness is working against you and you don't have another way to get out of or mitigate a new game plan to make it so that you are, again, unpredictable. We will see Shakur Stevenson pick up on those tendencies, pick up on that tell, and render Edwin De Los Santos' game plan, athleticism, skill set, and power all null and void. Again, anything can happen in boxing. We understand it. But we're going to see Shakur Stevenson just do whatever he wants in the ring because of that one big window. A literal changing of the guard and how Edwin De Los Santos is going to approach the fight at any given moment. If it's a high guard, he's going to be aggressive. If it's a more defensive guard, he's going to be defensive. And he doesn't do either one unless he's in those specific guards. And what I've seen in studying him is a tale of two people. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, legitimately. And for my prediction, I got this fight. If he does pick up on that tell as quickly as I can see Shakur doing it, it'll probably be done in 5. Knocked out in 5 or get stopped by the ref in 8. That's what I can see happening. Or a unanimous decision. And then a new WBC lightweight champion.